What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the My Parents Office podcast. I am your host, Andrew Diaz. Today, it's just going to be Brett and I, no interview on the second half of the show for episode 120. We've got a lot of good stuff in store. The life of Bob Saget, RIP, an entourage-related ranking/draft, and then most likely college wrestling talk. But before we get into that, make sure you follow us on social media at My Parents Office on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. My Parents Office podcast on Facebook, articles from the office on Substack, and then if you also want to follow my articles that I'm putting out through the Substack, I'm on Getter now, which I think is just like Republican Twitter, but I just upload all my articles on there, so you can go. I think it's just I'm either just Andrew Diaz or Fresh Legs Diaz on there. So go check that out. But we've got Brett here for today. Brett, what's going on?
What's up, buddy? How you doing? I'm still mourning.
I know it is real. It's sad.
It's fresh. It's fresh.
Yeah, it's
I'm still mourning from Betty White.
It's the year has not kicked off because you had John Madden, then Betty White, and now you've got Saget passing away. It's super unfortunate, and
it is January 11th.
it's brutal. It stinks. And what sucks? Well, we're taping this on Tuesday. So by the time this comes out, maybe there's going to be a cause of death, but there hasn't been one there has not been one released yet, which is a little. I mean, usually it doesn't come out right away, but still. You always wonder what happened. I mean, he was 65, wasn't super old. So I'm curious as to what happened. Maybe he just had a massive heart attack and passed away, or it didn't sound like suicide because I think that would have came out if he had killed himself.
Yeah, I mean, from it kind of making it sound like it was in his sleep because it was in bed in a hotel bed. So hopefully that's what it was. Nothing like too painful. Like, I don't know.
No, I know what you're saying. I completely understand. And it does. It stinks a lot. Especially because he directed one of my favorite comedies of all time, Dirty Works. And it stinks because Norm Macdonald was the star of that. Norm passed away over just a few months ago. Now Saget passes away. The only person left from those three is Artie Lang, and Artie's been in and out of rehab. Was a massive drug addict, and it's crazy that he's outlived those two people. But Saget was great. Everybody knows him from Full House. I think the two plays, at least on Twitter, that I saw, it's like Bob Saget was great in this. It was Full House, and a lot more people did say Entourage than I had anticipated. In our wheelhouse.
I mean, one show that I was never a fan of, but a lot of people watched it. It was America's Funniest Home Videos.
Oh, he must have made so much money off that because it went into syndication. And I'm in the same boat as you because I was never a fan of that, but he made absolute bank. And you forget that he was on that show and so many people watched that. It kind of takes a back seat to Full House when you think of his career.
Yeah, and then even recency. Didn't he do SNL this past Saturday? He did something Saturday. He was
on tour for comedy. He was
okay, that's what it was.
On a stand-up tour, and he was supposed to hit this area, the New England area. I think he was doing the Wilbur very, very soon in the next few weeks. So I'm thinking that show's not going to happen now, if I had to guess. Yeah. But he was also a pretty good comedian too. He was a good podcast guest, and he was a pretty good podcast host too. So all around, he did. He was. Everybody knew him from something. Granted, most of it was from Full House or American.
That is how that works normally.
Funniest, but seeing the love he got from Entourage on Twitter and Instagram the other day was actually kind of nice to see because people also saw him as this. Because in that he plays this.
The opposite.
Yeah, he's this. He's a little creepier. He's always got really young, attractive models at his house. He's a weird guy in Entourage, and
He wanted to fucking ease Boss's office.
Yeah, and the best was the scene I posted on Instagram, the blowjob one, because he's literally like explaining that to E. He's so pissed that he can't get all of E's time. He was the other person in that was like that was Jeffrey Tambor. When they're golfing, they had the golf scene where Ari had to play golf with him because like Saget wanted to just be the one and only client. Jeffrey Tambor wanted to be the one and only client. And those were some of the funniest cameos in that show, were the stars that were like, oh no, I'm your only client. Like, you're going to sit down, you're going to talk to me. Like, we're going to have a face-to-face discussion right now. I want all your time. I thought those were some of the best. So it is super sad though that he passed away. Because a lot of people know him as America's dad too. He's Danny Tanner.
And then the resurrection of Fuller House. But that's the thing. Like, it's not like
we can leave that one in the past. Not.
Well, no. What I'm saying with that is, it's not like he was like a popular celebrity in the 90s, early 2000s. What he still did came to present day. It's not like people who knew him were mostly in their 20s, 30s. People who are in high school today, middle school, I'd be very surprised they know who he was, even if it's from stuff coming out today.
Yeah, and what's crazy is like our age group, we kind of missed technically that Full House era, but
not me.
When it was coming out, technically,
yeah.
we wouldn't have been the people that would have watched it because of how young we were or we weren't even alive when that was coming out. It's people that now are like, it's people now that are like mid 20s, early 30s, mid to late 20s, early 30s would have been Full House people, but they kept rerunning it on Nickelodeon when we were kids, and like a lot of kids in our generation and even younger fell in love with watching Full House because of that. Like they just kept rerunning it, and it became a show that went past just one generation, like the kids in the 90s, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, and then in my case, when you have siblings who were kids in the 90s, you're growing up with DVDs from like Full House, Saved by the Bell, the Home Improvement, stuff like that.
Yeah. It is wild. It's really sad to think about that he passed. Because he literally did, it seemed like everything. He directed a movie. He was in one of the most famous TV shows, like most famous kids TV shows of all time. He had a pretty substantial cameo. He was in that like Andrew Dice Clay realm of cameo and Entourage, where he was in there for a few episodes. It was a familiar face. It was a running theme in Entourage when he would come in. So he was in one of the most famous HBO shows of all time. He was a stand-up comic and was a podcaster. He touched every corner that he possibly could in his professional career.
So what you're saying is that if there was no Bob Saget, there would be no O.J. Simpson Award.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So once again, taping this Tuesday, I'm gonna announce it tonight. I've got a little video prepared for it where I do the announcement. But spoiler alert, because you'll have already seen the video by now. By the time you're listening to it, the winner of the award is Henry Ruggs III, former Raiders wide receiver, was facing off against former Raiders head coach. Yeah, I think we go snaps, like the poetry. We'll go with some snaps for Henry Ruggs. He faced off against his former head coach, John Gruden. Gruden actually beat Antonio Brown in the semis. Ruggs beat Deshaun Watson in the semis, so they matched up. Famously, Gruden was fired this year because he sent emails over the past few years where he was homophobic, racist, called Roger Goodell. The only time that Gruden looked good in this was when he called Roger Goodell an anti-football pussy. So good for him for sending that one. The rest were not great, not very flattering. And then Henry Ruggs this year killed a woman while driving drunk. He was going 156 in Las Vegas. Killed a woman and her dog in the car. Also had a loaded gun in the car. So he's going to be going away for a while. There's a lot of guys on that Raiders team this year it could have been Antonio Brown was a former Raider. And then I did the award the day Nate Hobbs got arrested for a DUI. So a lot going on in the Raiders, but Henry Ruggs did win the award. I can actually pull up the percentage.
We should just keep celebrating these guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, good guys. And I'm not saying they're bad guys. Hey, they're a little misunderstood.
They're a little misguided.
That's what I would say. A little misunderstood.
So I just
hang on one second. 88-12, Henry Ruggs won percentage-wise. Brutal.
So what were the qualifications for this award?
I just went through. I was like, this was a pretty big year for crime. It doesn't beat the domestic violence year. Little pun there. The domestic violence beat it, but it does't beat that. But this year was a pretty crime-filled one, so I figured I would do it. And a couple guys missed the cut. Dan Schneider was involved in that email scandal with John Gruden. Aaron Rodgers was put on the almost made it list because he faked being vaccinated or having the vaccine. It was something COVID related that a lot of people didn't like him for. So there was that. He was on the waiting list. And I think Frank Clark, the former Chiefs D-end, was on the waiting list just because he got caught speeding or a DUI. But I just figured these guys are the most qualified by their actions and their character, that they most resemble something that OJ would do, or very OJ-esque. So, granted, only one of them was a murderer. The other three were just kind of scumbags. So the murderer did end up winning, though, which is good to see. Keep the tradition going that murderers are winning the OJ award.
And all you other scumbags that Diaz didn't say, keep doing your thing. Just because you didn't get it this year, there's always next year.
Guys, yeah, there's always next year. There's always next year. There's always next year. So just remember that. So with Bob Saget passing away, it's very loosely connected. Brett and I talked about doing an Entourage Draft, and we were kicking around. We did cameos before, and it was just a while back, so we don't want to rehash that. So we decided Brett came up with the idea to pick of the main characters of Entourage. We know who it is. 3 picks. You pick an actor or actress, pretty much making your team by their career outside of Entourage, which I think is a very interesting way to look at it, because a lot of the guys some of them, this was their make or break role. They were cusp actors, or this was just another role for them. So I'm curious how you're going to go about this, or just kind of see the way you go, because there's a handful of people that it's tough. Some of them don't have a lot of other big roles. So I'll give you the first overall pick. We're going to be getting 3 picks each, cannot repeat the picks. So Brett, take it away.
I think, are we doing in order? We're just picking 3.
We're going to go back and forth doing draft style. So I'd pick your strongest one first.
Okay. I think my strongest, another guy who, what?
I think I know, but I could be wrong.
You think you know? Take a guess.
Is it Kevin Dillon?
It is not.
Wow.
So somebody who, I think he's kind of the only person who had just as strong as guys like Kevin Dillon, guys like Piven, guys like Grenier. They were in a lot of movies, even during their Entourage career, before Entourage, after Entourage. There's only one guy who I think was in a TV show and had a strong role in a TV show. Mm-hmm. And I'm on top of movies. And I'm going to go with Jerry Ferrara, Turtle.
Wow. I am surprised you went with that number 1. I like it. But I won't lie. I am shocked.
Yeah. Because again, there's a lot of movies that I love that some of these guys are in. It's not a great movie, but Rocky V has E. The Notebook has E. Platoon, Kevin Dillon, whatever. But kind of small roles, like Jerry Ferrara from beginning to end of the show Power, which I did like a lot, where he played the lawyer Proctor, probably one of my favorite characters. He was in a lot of fun movies, like Think Like a Man, Think Like a Man 2.
Yep.
But yeah, and I don't think he's done. He's probably the youngest of the main 5 characters who has movies coming out 2022. So he's somebody who has been fun to follow because, like I said, the guys that have been in stuff before Entourage, they kind of peaked at Entourage, and the stuff that they kind of did after the fact was kind of like smaller things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But Ferrara was so young when Entourage started that was kind of like his big break, and he kind of just went up from there, in my opinion.
I like that. I after you explain it, I like that pick a lot. But so I'll go with the guy I thought you were going to take at number 1. I'm going to take Kevin Dillon. He was in, like you said, he hasn't really ever been a massive star. I mean, that was also kind of what's funny is like his career is not a lot. It's in some ways very similar to the way his character was in Entourage. Where
has a more famous brother.
Yes, where he wants, and like he's never the first 3 guys credited in a movie. Like he won't be. But he was in Platoon, a very famous movie. He starred actually in The Rescue. He was nominated for Young Artist Award by the Best Young Actor.
What was that?
Young Artist Award for the Best Young Actor, Motion Picture Drama. He was nominated, of course, didn't win. What
year was that?
Like 89. There's a handful. But he also does have stuff coming out.
The Boss Level with Mel Gibson and Frank Grillo.
He's also
came out on Hulu.
He's in Reagan too. He's going to be in a movie about Ronald Reagan this year, which is definitely because like with him, I feel like when you see him, he's always Johnny Drama. He'll forever be Johnny Drama. That's in my opinion when I see him. So him being in a Reagan movie is definitely going to be weird because it's going to be a political movie where he's not going to be joking around. He's going to have to be very straight laced in it. So that'll definitely be a fun thing to see him in. But I'm going to go with Kevin Dillon as my pick.
Yeah, he has got some stuff with Bruce Willis coming out soon too.
Yeah, it's like A Day to Die, I think. So it's called something like that.
That sounds like every
Bruce Willis
movie. Yeah.
All right. What are you going to go with here?
I think my number 2 is not just because, so we kind of mentioned TV shows that the characters have been on, movies that the characters have been in outside of Entourage. But this next character, I'm going to say, started a podcast probably because of Victory, the podcast, and shares a lot of same interests as I do and gets a lot of guests that I love. So it's cool seeing like a guy that we were pretty much introduced to on Entourage, kind of like still being able to keep up with him like every week. And I'm going to go with Jeremy Piven, who had, are you going to pick Piven?
I was between I was between Kevin Dillon and Piven as my number 1. And I was like, I'll be able to get him here. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, he's still very active with movies. He had like some foreign movie this year. I don't know if it came out yet, but it won some awards. He had My Dad's Christmas in 2020. He had Smoking Aces, which everybody and their mother is in that movie. Like I said, he got that How You Livin' Jay Piven, which has such a high amount of like MMA fighters, rappers, stuff that we love.
He's co-hosting with the girl from All American, right?
I've not watched that yet. Co-hosting what? The podcast?
Right?
It's just him.
I thought it was.
It's him plus guest.
Who? Oh, I'm thinking of Doug Ellen's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I hate that one. That one is insufferable. It's not I don't like the girl he's co-hosting with. The Jeremy Piven one's pretty good. I've listened to a few episodes. Yeah, I'd have to. It's and like you said, so the first time I saw him, and then I went back and rewatched this movie after Entourage, like unironically, and realized so he plays the dean in Old School that is trying to get the frat shut down, and it's hilarious to see him play this role after you've watched him for 6 seasons as Ari Gold. It's awesome to watch that, because you know him as like this uptight, very powerful guy. Now he's this uptight guy with very minimal power, and he tries to flex that even more. So I thought that was definitely pretty funny. But I like that pick a lot. It's that's where I was going to go, either number 1 or number 2.
I'm gonna guess for your number 2 if I can get it right.
You're not going to get this one. I'm telling you, you're not.
Is it the one of the 5?
It's one of the ones I would call like a tier 2 main character. You're gonna count it.
Seth Green.
No. Okay, so maybe like a 1A then.
Sloan.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, so I was looking through before we started the draft, doing a little homework on this. She's been in a lot of stuff.
Current too.
Yeah. She does a lot of TV as well. She's currently in the Superman and Lois show as Lena Lang. She's done, like, for movies that I've seen, she's in Super Troopers 2. She's got a pretty small role in that, but still a good one. Don't Mess with the Zohan. She's one of like the head hairdressers, I'm pretty sure, in that. And like, she's been going for a while. She's been acting since 1995 in movies, and 95 in TV as well. I mean, she was in the original Kung Fu Panda. Not Kung Fu Panda, the original Kung Fu, The Legend Continues. I completely botched that. But so she's had a very long career. The one thing that's tough is it's a long career with a lot of stuff. Only a handful of it I've seen or really would be interested in consuming. So I think that's definitely a tough thing. But just seeing how much she's done and like the stuff she's been in that I like, I'll take her off the board and make her my second overall pick.
I'm going back and forth with my third. Does Scott Conn count?
I would count him.
I don't know if I could. Like, he's nowhere close to.
It's tough because he was only like a last season guy, really.
I'm gonna go with Grenier.
Okay.
Which, that's just because the 2 movies the stuff that he's in, he's a big role in, but it's just not. I don't know. Like, Devil Wears Prada is a movie that it's a fun movie with Julia Roberts, Meryl Streep, etc. There's just not many other characters I can think of. Like he's in stuff that I like I said, but not much recent. Like, you pick Kevin Dillon, I pick. So we're kind of lowering our choices here. Gonna go Grenier, and that's kind of because, just like what I said about Piven, which we're kind of able to like see what he's up to every week right now. Grenier had that show Clickbait on Netflix. I'm absolutely picking this man. That show was amazing.
I forgot about that.
Did you watch it?
I did.
Yeah.
I completely spaced on that one because like I was thinking more for movies, like more movie stuff, not like Netflix.
Oh, absolutely Grenier then. I forgot about Clickbait. That's what I'm saying though. He's like one of those guys, like one of the very few guys behind like Ferrara and somewhat Piven, who's doing very relevant stuff today. Like, you see them coming out with multiple projects every year, and not just, unfortunately, staying in that cube that is Entourage, which I said unfortunately, but guys like Conley, Kevin Dillon, you could say Doug Ellen too, that yes, they're doing stuff outside of Entourage right now, and even to this day, but they still labelize their brand as like the Entourage guys.
Yeah. And especially, I don't think them trying to break the label of the Entourage guys, whether they want to or not, it doesn't help having Victory the podcast. I mean, granted,
which I love, which I'm not like talking shit.
I'm a fan, but if they ever wanted to break that, hey, it's we're not just the Entourage guys, it's gonna be very tough, especially when you're hosting a podcast every week where Kevin Dillon's the cover and it's a slogan from the show you did, and the 98% of your guests are all former cameos or people that worked on the show. That's going to be a very tough thing to do,
including Bob Saget. We should one day do another cameo draft. I was showing Zoe all the cameos that were in Entourage. There was some video that had like a couple seconds for every cameo, and she's like, "That person, Eminem."
Eminem had a great cameo in it. He knocked Vince out.
Yeah, he did.
That was have you gotten her to start watching Entourage yet?
No, we're watching. Right now we're watching Dave, the little Dickie show.
That's a good show. I watched the first season. I haven't seen the second one yet.
We just started that, and we're watching the revival of Twin Peaks that came back in 2017.
Gotcha. Got it. Are there any plans to start watching Entourage with
Zoe?
Yeah. Nice. So my last pick, he's a guy you brought up already. I'm going with Kevin Conley. Scott Conn, it's weird because like Scott Conn has had a more successful career outside of Entourage than about 99% of the actual like main characters, which I find pretty funny.
And it wasn't a cameo; he was a legit character too.
Yeah, and which is crazy. And he was a good character, and he had I think some of the best character development in Entourage because he went from a guy you hated. He's trying to steal Vince away. He's taking Vince skydiving and trying to pretty much poach him away from E, to where he's pretty much like one of them at the end when like the show comes to an end. Scott Conn is one of them. He is part of their crew pretty much, which I thought was he went from the most hateable to one of the most likable characters in that whole show. And like when I was initially watching it, it was tough because I always had my guard up with him because I was like, oh, he's gonna like snake them some way, and then he didn't. And you're like, oh, I like this guy. But I didn't pick Scott Conn because he's not we deemed him lower. So I'm going.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I wonder if they made him likable because they didn't want to happen what happened with who was the dude that like got out of jail? He was in
I can see his face. It's was it Turtles boy?
They were all boys, like from back in New York.
Oh, yeah. And he ended up he would have girls over the house all the time and like wake up E hated him.
I don't know.
Dom,
it's his
Dom.
It's his real name. I can't. I feel like maybe with the Scott Conn character, like the audience hated Dom so much and they wanted him like off the show. And I feel like they wanted him to be on the show more, but just the audience hated him. I wonder if that's what they tried to like
and
avoid.
They also tried to make him more likable. Like the scene where he's going back to prison and he's like, can you just bring me by my house? And then you hear the van leave and they're like, oh my God, he left. And it was his wife and his kid and his mother-in-law were the ones leaving. He's like, yeah, I'm going to turn myself back in.
Well, one episode, he was a douchebag. The other episode, we're supposed to think he is still a douchebag, but ends up, like you said, going through like some character development and actually having some redeeming qualities. Let's give it one for Dom.
I know. But yeah, so Kevin Conley, he's been in notable things, has never really been a star in a lot of stuff. He was in Rocky V, terrible movie, but it's a Rocky movie, so it gets.
Can I say one thing about Rocky V? I just watched Rocky VI a couple weeks ago. Did you watch? You've seen it?
Putrid.
And you don't like Rocky Balboa? You don't like that movie?
Awful movie.
We're getting back to that, but
I do not like it. Ugh.
Really?
I don't know. I think more with that is it's a mid-tier boxing movie, but it has the attachment of Rocky on it. And it's like, well, Rocky IV was one of the greatest movies of all time. I think it gets compared to a lot of the other Rocky movies when you're talking about it. That's why I think it's personally terrible, is I think like, well, they made Rocky IV. How do you make something like Balboa or Rocky V? It just,
in my opinion, they did all the right things for being the sixth movie. They made it as nostalgic as possible, having so many references to the early movies. They had him lose, which at least they didn't make like a 60-year-old man or however old he was, and Rocky Balboa beat the top guy in the world.
which would have made that absolutely terrible. It would if
Yeah,
he was
they did like
if
the
he
right
came back
things.
as like this
Unit.
machine, this
Yeah. It
6-year-old
turned.
machine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, so he's been in Rocky 5, Secretariat, um,
The
The
Notebook.
Notebook, John Q. Like he's been in things. He's never been the guy though. He had a few television wise. He's never really been a guy after Entourage. I mean, he had Entourage as his big run, and his next closest is Unhappily Ever After, where he helped direct it and was one of the
Oh,
stars in it. But
but let's talk about his real breakthrough. What was that movie that did the worst movie of all time? The one with
oh,
John Travolta.
oh God, I can't think of the name of it. I'm looking at his IMDb too.
He directed it.
The one he directed.
Gotti.
Oh God, was that terrible? It was also because John Travolta's he's weird, and they made him, and like the older he's gotten weirder. So seeing him in that role is just like it's just weird. Like nothing about that movie was normal.
I have not seen that movie. I just know how bad it supposedly
Bits
did.
and pieces, just not great. So yeah, that'll cap off our Entourage cast draft. It's cool to look at something like that they had one thing and that was it. I mean, do you think part of that is because Entourage was at times raunchy? It was a different level of comedy. It was bro humor, as a lot of people like to call it.
It's
Do you
really
think
not.
you don't think that hurt some of these guys after the fact when it came to getting other roles?
No, not at all.
I don't know.
Well, who stopped acting because of that show? They all did
I'm
amazing.
saying
They all
getting
did
bigger. I'm saying getting bigger roles though. I think doing
I
that
don't think
hurt them.
so. I don't think so. I think it's not like they were doing like tremendous and then did Entourage and then did poorly.
Yeah,
If anything, some of them, it was like a linear line between what they were doing before and what they did after. And then guys, like I said, like Turtle, who kind of like in one way or another skyrocketed compared to what he was doing before Entourage. Piven was still working. Like they picked and chose. They did what made them happy. It's not like they were like just making shitty cameos.
yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. I also do think there's still some of that stigma where like they'll always be the Entourage guys, so it'll be tough to cast them in things because of now with today's you couldn't make Entourage today. So now with today's cancel culture, it'll be tougher to cast them, especially a guy like a Kevin Conley, because or people just won't cast them. I think that's
In
how
my
it.
opinion, the only person who that could have hurt from that show was Vinny Chase. And the fact that he's still being casted and he was like the main character of a Netflix show that came out in 2021. I think the fact that some of them are not in shows or movies like post Entourage, I think that just has to do with them.
I also think with him, he softened a lot, and like I think that always who he was. He did a lot to kind of break that Entourage character of E, because especially like later seasons E when he was in
You mean
rehab
you
or
mean
not E,
Vinny?
Jesus Vince. When he was in like rehab, he was a hateable character and kind of a bad boy. He definitely with a lot of the stuff he's doing after the fact, like with global warming and like the ecosystem, he's definitely softened on people.
I don't think the people outside of the people who know Entourage really even know that.
Yeah. I don't know, but he's been very public about it. And now with Victory being out, that's a main thing that they talk about on Victory, or at least
So funny.
whenever his name comes up, is like they're like, oh, like he'll always have a home here, like if he ever wants to come on. Um,
Well, yeah, they have that new project for the new Doug Allen project that's gonna have Charlie Sheen, gonna have Johnny Drama, gonna have E. Not as those roles, of course, I don't think, but um, like that's what probably may have helped Grenier in a way that he's not all clicky with the rest of them. I don't think that hindered any of them, but I don't think he wasn't any mold because of that show. Because it's not like he by himself was like, think of another show. Like there's shows out there like Breaking Bad where Bryan Cranston became a household name because of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Grenier did not become a household name because of Entourage.
Right. Yeah. I think not to break this up, but a cool draft we could do down the line is like main TV show characters, because like you just mentioned, Walter White is a household name. And like when you're comparing that, like Tony Soprano is a household name. So like that would be a fun one to do. But also like when you think of that, Walter White and Tony Soprano are household names. I do agree with you that Vinny Chase is not a household name.
I'm saying if it was, I think that could have hindered his career, because a lot like America, the world would see just that face and think Vinny Chase.
That's a good point. That is fair too. Yeah, I agree with that. I'd agree with that.
Also, we got to get back to our Christmas list next year, because you had Die Hard on your list, right? Was that number one for you?
No, I did not. No, I'm not a Die Hard guy. I do not like Die Hard.
Okay. My sister is a Die Hard person who thinks like that's like, I think that might be her favorite Christmas movie. Oh, but the people that have that as number one, like if you watch Lethal Weapon and you watch Die Hard and you say Die Hard's better than Lethal Weapon, even for a Christmas movie,
yeah,
you're crazy.
I mean, I could name 10 better than I would, like 10 Christmas movies better than Die Hard, and I still don't consider Die Hard.
Thank you. Okay, we're good.
It's preposterous. It's yeah, that just I have a question for you. Do you understand like NFTs at all?
I loosely know what it is. It's like owning like an internet. It's like owning like a digital piece of quote unquote art. Yeah.
I tried making them the other night. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I like was in like Google Paint for like 4 hours trying to figure this shit out, and on like different crypto websites to figure out.
If you take a screenshot of this right now, wouldn't it technically become an NFT?
If you post it, like I think into like a crypto wallet, I think it would.
If I technically Venmo'd you, if you took a screenshot of this right now and I Venmo you $5, I think it would technically become an NFT.
Yeah, it's something like that. It would. I mean, I've also gone on like my Twitter profile pictures in NFT. I don't know. I think I screenshotted actually Justin Bosch's NFT he had on his Twitter, and I just used that as like my profile picture. I thought it was pretty cool. So like that's what I have as my profile picture. But yeah, like I was like, it seems like you could easily make money off them if you find a little niche. Like the big one is like the apes. Like one of them's called like lazy ape or baked ape, where like it's a monkey's like face profile with like bloodshot eyes, but also in like with different like styles on. Like Eminem bought one for like a couple $100,000, which I don't understand.
Like a real ape or like the bathing ape logo?
No, it's like a cartoon ape.
Like not bathing ape?
No, it's not the babe thing. Like it. I'm gonna send you a picture of one of them.
Please do.
It's because it's like it's like something you would see in like maybe a Cartoon Network show. Like this ape is like the fourth character in like on like regular show. I'll send you one. I have one saved. Another one I found on.
Yeah,
Twitter.
I mean, I think it's one of those things. Just like what?
I just texted to you.
All right, but it's just one of those things. Like I think it's a kind of a good joke off of like art. Like you can put a price to literally anything, and now people are just putting prices to like stuff on the internet. I don't know. It's like putting prices to shoes. It's the same kind of thing.
But I don't know how much of a joke it is.
I have never seen that in my life.
That's like a huge one, like those apes.
It looks very like newspaper comic booky.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it. But like, I don't know how much of a joke it is anymore. Because
it's not. Well, just like the same thing as what was that crypto that was kind of made as a joke?
Dogecoin.
Yeah, which then people invested actual money into. And can you
Mhm.
actually call it a joke at that point if there's legitimate money in it?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing.
There's a difference between like that and like there was the AMC thing that went on where people were like investing, holding like onto like AMC stock. And I don't really think anybody made or lost. I don't think anybody made money. I think people might have lost money. That was more of a joke, I think, versus like what NFTs and like Doge became.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying a joke like haha. I'm saying it's like a joke in the sense that it's literally saying you could put a price on anything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And people can, I don't know. I think NFT, like I was listening to something the other week and I think it's just they were saying it's another way of people maybe just trying to like launder money. Like, oh, I'm going to spend $100,000 on this and now it's legitimate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like
it's
art.
I did like 4 hours of research on it and still didn't understand a fucking thing about it, but
Not getting those back.
no, I'm not. What's going on in college wrestling? Let's talk about college wrestling. I want to talk about wrestling.
A few big stories. Miocic came back a couple weeks ago that day that we got blue belt from Arizona. What?
The sickle.
Yeah, and he lost 11-5 this past weekend.
Which was a big not in the Arizona match, you're saying.
No, not the match we got blue belt. He lost 11-6 to Cole Matthews from Pitt. That's probably the big story at 141. Since Spencer Lee decided to get his double knee surgery finally, they pulled Drake Ayala's red shirt. He beat number 5. So he's roughly gonna like be in the top 10 right now. He has the possibility of All-Americaning, but right now Penn State is so beginning of this year, there was a very slim chance that anybody besides Iowa was gonna like sniff the number 1 spot.
Yeah.
Right now it's looking like Penn State's winning with a landslide.
It's always bizarre that it's if you've been watching wrestling like the past few years, it's a weird thing to think that a team not named Penn State would be like an underdog going into a season. And then this year, like they're just back to their ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they started this how they are right now is not who they were in the beginning of the season. It's not like their guys got better. It's because of transfers. Like Drew Hildebrandt, who was over at Central Michigan, is now their 125. Brady Berge, who was an assistant coach at South Dakota State, transferred back to Penn State to finish off his career there.
That is one of the most awesome things about college wrestling is you could be an assistant coach at a Division I program and then just go wrestle again at like one of the best Division I programs.
You say that's one of the cool things about wrestling. I've never heard of that other than Brady Berge.
There's the transferring like that, and then I also think it's cool that the guys are transferring but also still training. Like they're coaching somewhere. Then
it's not like
they're coaching somewhere and they're also still training there. So when I think of that, I still think like they're still competing. But now, like, what's his name? Mark Hall is at Penn, and like he's still.
And then he wrestled at Midlands or the Illinois Mad Open a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, which it's there's no sport like wrestling where guys will coach but also still be competing. It's far.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Dake at Cornell. Like
yes. You don't see like a 25-year-old quarterbacks coach playing like training to go play in like the Canadian Football League. That's very slim chance like that's happening. Granted, and then in wrestling, you got guys still trying to make Olympic teams at 25, but also still coaching, or they're still just wrestling their 7th year in college at the age of 25. It's you never know.
Or eighth year.
Gee, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah, with 3 Olympic red shirts, I think.
That's ridiculous. You get into college, you're 26 years old or 27 years old.
Wait, so when was his first year then? Would that mean like 2015, 2016? So when he started wrestling, was he how many presidents ago did Miocic start wrestling in college?
Obama. Whoa. If it was the 15-16 year,
And
Trump
technically,
would have gotten elected, but Obama would have still been president.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's still insane, though.
That's fucking outrageous. Oh, so he was Obama, Trump, and Biden.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Jesus. I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
I'm a junior in college now. And he is still in college.
He's breaking records. Somebody call Guinness.
That is fucked up beyond belief.
I mean, he's probably making money somehow. He was on the Olympic team. Like, why leave? Like,
Oh,
at this
I
point,
know. I mean, like, honestly, it's he's got like one of the best gigs right now where he's just wrestling in college. Like he's still training for Olympics and stuff. Like it's honestly, it doesn't get better than that for him.
I mean, I think one of the biggest stories this year is the older guys who you believe would just be running away with every match, dominating every match, are having, like, it's like they're getting worse. Like Jaden Ironman, who's has been like synonymous for like having majors and getting bonus points every single season. He's had like he almost lost to Ryan Jack. Like,
yep.
He almost lost to multiple people. He lost six.
He should have lost to Ryan Jack.
He was losing. He won a match this past weekend. It was 6-6 when the match ended, and he won 7-6 because of riding time. Like, with how well he has done in the past and how dominant he was in the past, he ain't too good right now.
He's
undefeated, but
yeah, it's weird it's wrestling is the one sport where you can say it's like, yeah, he's not really that great right now and still be undefeated. Like, still, it's very
well. I mean, comparable.
I know. But that it is crazy the way college wrestling does go. There is no sport like this, and that's what it always comes back to. It's like no sport has guys every week that you like being an 18-year-old wrestling against a 25-year-old. I always think that age gap is the coolest, and then I don't know. It's just I get excited for the season. It's super exciting to see, and it's also a good thing, knock on wood, that we haven't heard about any programs getting cut this year.
Yeah,
I think that's a huge thing, especially last year. That was the focal point of pretty much the NCAA finals. There was no story. The two biggest stories were probably, honestly, Ferrari being in the finals and Shane Griffith being in the finals. Spencer Lee, obviously, after the finals was a big one that he said he was wrestling with 2 torn ACLs, but going into it, there wasn't a story bigger than the Shane Griffith at Stanford one. And now to see that programs at least haven't said they're going to be shutting down yet, it is a very promising thing for the sport. And now we just need some colleges to start adding back or adding it for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably, I would say, still more colleges being added right now. Like, I forgot that name. What's that Kentucky University?
Oh,
that
Chattanooga?
That's Tennessee.
Jesus Christ.
I'm saying there's still.
Is it Division 1?
It's becoming Division 1 now. But yeah, we should appreciate that no colleges have dropped wrestling this year, but I think that there's still that upward trajectory.
Kentucky Wesleyan?
That might be it. 1 second. It doesn't matter right now.
I don't know if they're D1. I'm just trying to find this. Sorry. Best wrestling college in Kentucky. I honestly have no idea. I didn't even know about that.
1 second. Talk for a minute.
There was what was cool is like or not cool now that it's not happening. There were rumors that Clemson was going to bring their team back. And they had a national champion way back in like the 70s or 80s. So it's crazy that a school can look at like, oh, we've had national champions in the past. We have guys like Stanford did, or even Eastern Michigan and Old Dominion. We've got guys that are wrestling to be All-Americans and or wrestle for national championships and just gas their program. That Shane Griffith essentially saved Stanford wrestling along with 4 or 5 other sports sports teams on campus that were going to get cut. And pretty much, I think the wrestling community was a major factor in that as well, with how much they got behind Shane Griffith and everything that he was doing at the time. It doesn't get better than that, and that's a staple for the wrestling community too, or a proud badge to wear as if you're a part of the wrestling community. That pretty much they were able to band together and bring programs back. But it would be great to see a revitalization of programs in the South, like Clemson, Florida State.
How are there 0 in Florida?
It makes no, and it's
And
one of the best
Texas.
high school states. It's one of the two of the best high school states do not have college.
I wouldn't go that far. I would not say that much.
What do you mean?
2 of the best high school states?
For wrestling?
Yeah, they're dookie.
Florida's not. Is Florida not good?
Florida's not good.
I thought Florida was better.
Florida had good individuals, but as a whole, it's not compared to New Jersey, New York, PA.
Yeah. Okay, but still,
Ohio,
two
California.
of the biggest states with high populations of kids that are wrestling do not have Division I wrestling schools.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking about Bellarmine.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they were in Kentucky.
Yeah. Louisville, Kentucky.
Huh. So they're becoming. So what'll they join? The MAC? I'm assuming.
I don't even know where Kentucky is. Is it in
They're right under Ohio?
They're under Ohio?
Yeah.
I thought they were in the South. Jesus Christ.
Well, they border. Ohio is north of them. PA is north of them. I think to the west of them might be Indiana or Missouri, maybe. You know, we're gonna look at a U.S. map.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, borders.
Probably maybe ACC, maybe.
I could see ACC because there's not a lot of teams in it.
Yeah, I mean it's right there next to North Carolina, South Carolina.
The MAC, surprisingly, the MAC has more teams in it than both the Pac-12 and the ACC.
Well, it did just lose Mizzou.
They're Big 12 now, right?
They're Big 12 now.
It's good that they didn't drop the program. That's the one good thing. But,
that'd be one of the dumbest ones if they did.
I know. But yeah, so I mean, what other stories? You said there were a few big ones.
I mean, those were Soriano made his debut. Probably the big ones. There just really aren't too many weight classes right now that it's crazy to think that there's some weight classes that there's one guy you think is just going to dominate even nationals. Mm-hmm. But then some of those weight classes are so deep because of people coming back from last year and their Olympic year that you don't really know. Like, it's hard to kind of see AJ Ferrari losing this year, but at the same time, you don't really know how a guy like Maxine is going to compare next to him.
Yeah, I think that is one of the unique things that guys, you don't know who's coming back, like you said, from the Olympics, which will definitely be intriguing because you don't know how their guys like that are going to wrestle. But and it also throws a lot at people.
Yeah, like Amin versus Brooks. Like, we got Olympic bronze medalist versus national champ from last year.
Yeah. One of our friends of the program, actually, Stephen Buchanan, I think he's ranked third right now at 197.
Who's under him?
Eric Schultz at Nebraska, Jacob Warner at Iowa, Rocky Elam at Mizzou,
Elam,
Greg Bolsack at Rutgers, Brucky at Michigan, and Bonacorsi, last year's finalist from Pitt.
He just lost to Brucky this weekend.
He sucks. That's why.
Bonneberger.
Our boy Braxton Amos is ranked 24th right now.
He ain't doing too hot.
He's 12-3 on the year. I mean,
he went to an overtime match with a D3 guy.
Did he really?
Yeah.
D3 guys are tough. I'm not gonna shit on him. No, not doing it.
He lost to Bolsack, or you gonna say twice.
Bullsick's good. Good guy. Good.
Okay,
Good,
that now here's the love. The
good,
jersey love. Thank you.
good. No, he's just not a good guy. Just good wrestler. Decent wrestler. Caught him on a bad day.
149. Like
Hang
it's
on.
hard to see.
The guy that we tried to get on over the summer, Bernie Truax, he's ranked 6th right now. Like he could have came on the pod. He would have probably been 4th or 5th. I mean, this is just absolute horse shit.
I mean,
he's like, I'm putting
the
camps together. That's what
the
he
My
told
Parents Office effect. Like Ridge Lovett doing pretty hot right now.
that Ridge was great. What's he ranking right now? 4th. He snaps.
He almost beat Yanni this year.
Which would have been great if
went to overtime.
If Ridge Lovett beat Yanni, I mean, it would be we would turn our page into a Ridge Lovett fan page. Like it wouldn't.
I can either see him going 3rd at Nationals this year, but I can also see him like
just
DNPing.
Yeah, it's one of those guys. He's either gonna just make an absolute. It's gonna be a bang either way. He's either just not gonna. He'll go like a 1 and 2, or just like you said, take 3rd. But that top 2 seems pretty solidified, if you ask me, with Yanni,
Sasso and Yanni.
Sasso. Huh?
Well, I think number 1 definitely Sasso could lose. I think he can lose to like a Yaya Thomas. He can lose to like a Austin Gomez, maybe. I don't know.
Other friend of the program, Trent Hilger, Thor Hilger. He's ranked.
He just lost this weekend.
Shut your mouth. He's ranked 8th right now. Who do you lose to?
Lucas Davison, Northwestern.
I'm not seeing this guy up here. This guy's good. He's ranked 14th. He's good. Good wrestler.
He's good. He almost beat I think he almost beat Cassiope. I think it went all 3 matches at U23 trials.
I hate that. I don't like Colton Schultz. I hate that he's ranked 3rd.
I don't even know what he placed last year. I don't think did he place 3rd? Like,
did he place?
He had to have. He's undefeated this year. He probably took 3rd. I don't know. What did Kirkfleet place? Like 7th?
I'm pulling up the All-American list from last year.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense if he's 3rd and he's behind.
So it went Gable, Mason Paris, Cassiope, Colton Schultz, Gremmel, friend of the program, Trent Hilger, Kirkfleet, and Tate Orndorff.
Yeah, he sucks. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that he's 3rd right now because Cassiope has lost this year to the Princeton heavyweight when he got like flipped to his back and pinned.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's good. If he wrestles Cassiope, I mean, Arizona and Iowa, were they supposed to wrestle this year and haven't? Or
I don't know. That would be an odd one, but also you don't expect Michigan like them to. I honestly don't know. I don't know.
Well, it wouldn't be like a division thing because it's not like they're not division, but because they're Pac-12 and Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
141 could have been a fun, like, I don't know. How do you see 141 right now? Do you just see Nick Lee next, or do you think Ironman still has a chance? Tariq, Sebastian Rivera.
I think Nick Lee it's clear cut number 1. Nick Lee, especially with the way Ironman's been wrestling. Like we mentioned before, I'm not sold on him as the number 2 guy. I think Seabass could definitely beat him if it came down to it. I think Mičić could beat him if it came down to it. I even think a guy like Real Woods could beat a guy like Ironman if it came to it. But
I agree.
I think like it's 1, and then there's a pack of like 5 guys that could put in at number 2.
I think there's a 1 right now, and then
that's you think Nick Lee.
I'm still saying Ironman, Nick Lee 1, like a tier 1 kind of thing, because Ironman did beat him last year. And just because he's having like close matches this year doesn't mean he can't do it again.
Right.
Seabass wrestles Nick Lee this week. I think he wrestles him this coming weekend. Yeah. So we'll see how he kind of compares. If it's like a runaway, then Nick Lee, Ironman, and then whoever else. Mičić, he had a close match with a backup from the previous weight from the Arizona Michigan thing, and then he lost to the Pitt guy. So yeah, I mean, he's an Olympian. He placed at Euros. Like he's a 3 or 4 time All-American, multiple time finalist, I think.
Mhm.
So it's hard to see him not being able to turn it on, especially around nationals time. But right now, based on how he's wrestling, he's not going to be able to take on those top guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, 141's a deep weight class too, with a lot of guys that
A lot of names.
a lot of guys ranked lower right now that could cause a stir when it comes down to it. Like Chad Red being at number 9, I think could be a guy that could really make some noise. Obviously we're going to show some love to Ryan Jack when it all the time, but he's another guy ranked 15th right now. But yeah, I mean I still think Nick Lee losing to Ironman last year definitely makes them closer in my opinion on the rankings, but I still think that it's Nick Lee tier 1 right now, Ironman tier 2.
Well, I mean, it's also like a stylistic kind of thing. Like their first match, Ironman won. Their second match went overtime. So it's not like there's clear proof that they're that far different skill wise, even from the next season.
Yeah.
Like it definitely a stylistic thing. Like, I don't know. In previous years, it was kind of difficult to take Ironman down, even if he got to his legs. This year, he's getting taken down. So that could be a teller of something. Maybe he's got one of those guys that's going to turn it on at the end of the season.
Yeah. Ironman's so funky too when he wrestles. He's just got such like you said, an odd style. It's just bizarre the way he wrestles, but it works for him.
Yeah, 133 could be a 2-man race right now with Dayton and RBY. 125 could be a 1-person race. It could be a 3-person race with Suriano, Vito, and Pat Glory. That's one of those ones that are fun because like Vito has beaten Suriano in freestyle. Vito has beaten Glory. Glory has beaten Vito. Like, so right now it's kind of like a 3-way race with those guys, but I don't see anybody beating Nick Suriano right now at 125 in folk style.
I agree with you there. I think the one weight class that I'm looking at right now is very intriguing, in my opinion, is 57, because
Deacon,
right now Carr is ranked number 1, Deacon's 2, but just if you remember watching Deacon last year, was just such a hammer on top. Like he
was a hammer up until NCAAs. He just had a bad nationals, to be honest. Losing to Del Vecchia.
And then Del Vecchia had a great year a great final or NCAAs. But then Austin O'Connor is ranked 6th at 57. He was at 49 last year. He was the champ at 49 last year.
Yeah, I think he's only had one loss right now, coming from Peyton Robb.
Who's at 5th right now. Brayton Lee's at 6th. And
157 is a mess right now. Ed Scott just beat Quincy Monday past weekend, which I was going to go to that duel, but then last minute Princess said no spectators.
Yeah, so like you said there, you got Quincy Monday at 11, Caleb Young at 12, and Wyatt Sheets at 13.
Who have all AA'd, I believe.
Yeah, like this is going to be an exciting weight class because there's like 10 guys that you could fit into that 8-man All-American status, which is going to be an absolute blast when it comes time for NCAAs.
Who's 3rd right now?
I think Teamer. Yeah, Corey Teamer.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, which I see a 2-man race right now, but like we've seen at Deacon for nationals, anything could really happen. Peyton Robb had, I think, an overtime match with David Carr, if not very close, going into the 3rd.
Yeah.
165, I think, is the weight class right now where anything can happen. Like, I think 165 is the only weight class right now that it's not like a clear 3, a clear 2.
Hey, put this on the record. What is today? Today is 1/11/21. Evan Wick is going to be your national champion at 165. I like him. I liked him at Wisconsin. He was a fun guy for me to watch, and I think at Cal Poly now I think he's gonna win the national championship. He's a tall, long guy. I like him versus Marinelli. I like him against a guy like Kegen O'Toole and versus Shane Griffith. Even though if they wrestle in the finals, it'll be very tough for me to pick. But I will take Evan Wick. I'm taking Evan Wick.
He beat Griffith this year.
I'm saying for them to root against Griffith. It'll be tough.
Yeah.
But
Evan Wick is one of those guys that's kind of weird how a couple years ago, he was that guy that was so good, but you never saw him. I never saw him in that like tier 1 area. I never saw him being able to beat like a Chenzo. He was always losing to the Marinelli. He was always like an all-American guy, really good, always beating like that second tier, but you never really saw him in that first tier, which is crazy because this year you're not the only one who is saying that he's a possible favorite going in NCAAs. Like undefeated, he's looked better than Marinelli this year, which is kind of crazy to say. He's beaten the returning champ. Like, guys, it's a fun weight though. Carson Karchla can make an effect. Marinelli, who just because he's had close matches and has had poor performances at NCAAs, he could beat literally everyone in that weight class. Shane Griffith, he did it last year. That means he could do it this year. Julian Ramirez knocked off Shane Griffith earlier in the year. He could do it again. He could knock off some of these top guys. We got Kegen O'Toole, who, in my opinion, I want to win at NCAAs. I think he was my pick winning last year. Took third.
Still not a bad pick. I mean, I'm excited to do our picks when it comes to NCAA time and conference time.
Also, the amount of undefeated guys right now in that weight class, at least three top guys: Evan Wick, Marinelli, Kegen O'Toole. We almost saw Kegen O'Toole, Marinelli at the national duels in Florida, but Mizzou and Iowa never matched up.
Yeah, Wick, Marinelli, O'Toole, and Valencia are also undefeated.
Valencia's not going to win nationals.
He's terrible. But
your Mexican representative.
He's terrible. I hate watching him wrestle.
But, I do too.
So
have you seen Spider-Man?
I have not yet. I think I'm going to go to the theaters on my own this week after class.
Zoe and I watched it a couple weeks ago. It was pretty dang good.
I've been hearing. I have not heard a bad thing about it yet.
I think we saw it 3 weeks ago. So before like kind of any spoilers.
Yeah, that's one. Like, I honestly, if this one got spoiled for me, I wouldn't have cared. I mean, I kind of know what happens and stuff, but I still think there's stuff I don't know yet. But if this is one, like, if it's got spoiled for me, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
So if I go see it now, I'm gonna be excited. But I think I'm gonna go this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for listening to episode 120 of the My Parents Office podcast. The goal this year is to hit 200 episodes, which I think is, what do you think, manageable?
What?
200 episodes this year? Hit episode 200 this year. So it's not 200 total episodes.
So you want to do 200 episodes this year? Let's do it.
So that would be,
that'd be about 4 a week.
That's a lot of time. That's a lot of college wrestling talk.
I don't know.
It would just be us going through the rankings each day. Yeah, nothing's changed. Nothing new here. Yep, Marinelli's still number 1. Nope. Ooh, yeah, no, Nick Lee is still number 1. Oh, what about check heavyweight? Check heavyweight for us.
Gable is still number 1. Wild to think about.
But all right, thank you for listening to episode 120 of the My Parents Office podcast. Make sure you follow us on social media at My Parents Office on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. My Parents Office podcast on Facebook. Articles from the office on Substack. And stay tuned for more episodes coming this week or next week or whenever they drop. Thank you.